got a problem that no one wants to admit, a single mother epidemic. It's not just about women raising kids alone, it's about the men who don't show up, a system that fails them, and a country that's just too scared to face the real consequences. And here's the kicker, we are all complicit whether we like it or not. Let's be real here. Society doesn't want to hear this, but the truth doesn't really care about your feelings, and it never did anyway. We keep blaming high crime rates, gangsterism, and reckless behavior, except the actual root cause of all this, a fatherless generation. For decades, SA has glorified single motherhood, acting like it's some kind of badge of honor. We've gone from strong, independent women to I don't need a man. But guess what? The stats don't lie, and neither does reality, because we're raising an entire generation of lost boys and rebellious girls with no structure, no discipline, and no idea how to function in a real society. Before you accuse me of villainizing single mothers, let me make one thing crystal clear. Single mothers are some of the toughest, most resilient people I have ever seen on this planet. They are carrying burdens so heavy that most of us can't even comprehend them. But let's talk about burden. The real hell they endure every day that no one wants to acknowledge. Let's not pretend it's all Instagram smiles and boss mom captions. Single motherhood in many cases is a raw, unfiltered, exhausting grind. Picture this, it's 4:30 a.m. and you're waking up because your toddler is screaming from another room. He's sick again, and you can't afford to miss work because your boss already hinted that your personal life is affecting your performance. And now you're stuck between an ungrateful job and an ungrateful world. You're expected to parent like you don't work and to work like you don't parent. That is the harsh reality many single mothers face these days in South Africa. And by the time the sun rises, you're balancing breakfast, diaper changes, and trying to get your older kid ready for school. But wait, school fees. Who's paying those? The government isn't exactly rushing you to help out. And let's not even mention school uniforms, textbooks, or the endless parade of stationery lists that schools keep handing out like they are running a stationery business on the side. Now you're off to work. Finally, you got the kids to school. Maybe you're a cashier at a local grocery store, or you work at a call center. It's a dead-end job, but you're stuck because someone has to keep the lights on and food in the fridge in the house. Your colleagues don't understand what you're going through, and your boss sure as hell doesn't care. Leave your personal issues at the door, they'll tell you. As if that's even possible. If only it was that easy for you. And by the time you come home, you're greeted with an empty fridge and your child asking for food you just can't afford. Maybe you'll skip dinner tonight so that they can eat. And when they finally fall asleep, you collapse on the couch, scrolling through your phone, looking at other moms who seem to have it all together. Meanwhile, you're battling anxiety about how you're going to survive another month with these kids and running the household alone. That is the reality of a single motherhood for millions of women in South Africa. It's not glamorous, and it's not something anyone aspires to be. It's not something anyone should aspire to be. Because here's another reality. Single mothers are one missed paycheck away from complete disaster. If the car breaks down, how do they get to work? If their kid needs new school shoes, what gets sacrificed this month? Groceries? Electricity? Rent? I'll give you an example. Meet Nokutula. She's a 26-year-old single mother in Soweto with 2 kids. She works as a domestic worker, earning, let's say, 3,500 rand a month. Rent takes up 1,200. Electricity is another 800. Food for her kids, around 1,000. What's left? Nothing. She has no savings, no backup plan, and no one to lean on. When her son gets sick in winter, she has to choose between taking him to the doctor or paying for transport to work. Guess what she chooses? Work. Because missing a day could mean losing her job. Her son recovers, but not without complications that could have been avoided if she had the money for proper healthcare. Or consider Nomvula, a 32-year-old single mother staying in Durban, for example. She has a 13-year-old daughter who's starting to rebel. Nomvula works 2 jobs, and because she's never home, her daughter spends most of her time on the streets, smoking weed and all of that with the wrong crowd. And the police caught her one day and took her home last week after she was caught stealing a cell phone. Nomvula cried herself to sleep that night, wondering where she went wrong in trying to raise a powerful little girl. Let's not pretend society gives single mothers a break, okay? They are judged at every turn. If their kids act up, it's their fault for not raising them right. If they struggle financially, people call them lazy or irresponsible. The same society that abandons them is the first to criticize them. And let's talk about dating as a single mom. Imagine trying to find love when you've got kids. Most men don't want to date a woman with baggage, as they like to call it. The ones who do often have ulterior motives. They think they can exploit her vulnerability. Single moms are left navigating a dating pool filled with predators and opportunists, all while trying to protect their kids. Because let's be honest, even churches, which are supposed to be places of refuge, sometimes treat single mothers like second-class citizens. They are told to pray harder or wait for God's timing, as if faith alone can pay the bills or provide childcare. Here's something people don't want to talk about enough: the mental health struggles of single mothers. When you're a single mother, there is no such thing as me time. Every second of your day is consumed by someone else's needs. You're constantly worried about money, your kids, your job, and your future. Perhaps finding love too. The stress doesn't just sit on your shoulders, it seeps into your bones, your soul. Depression and anxiety are rampant amongst single mothers, but most of them never get any help anyway. Why? Because therapy is expensive, and they are too busy surviving to sit down and talk about their feelings. And even if they could, they'd have to deal with the stigma. In a culture that already looks down on single mothers, admitting you're struggling mentally is seen as a weakness in the society we live in. The truth is, most single mothers don't want to be single mothers. No brainer. They don't want their kids to grow up without a father. Who does? But they are stuck in a cycle that's hard to break. Their kids grow up watching their struggles, and without proper intervention, they often repeat the same patterns. Imagine a young boy growing up without a father. He watches his mom work herself to death just to provide the bare minimum. He learns that men can abandon their responsibilities and still get away with it. Or imagine a young girl growing up in that environment. She might seek love and validation from men because she didn't get it from her absent father, and then the cycle continues because she gets pregnant when she is young too. If we really want to solve the single mother problem, we need to start by supporting them and not shaming them. That means affordable childcare, better access to education, and real consequences for men who abandon their kids. It means creating a society where single mothers don't have to choose between feeding their kids and paying rent. But most importantly, it means teaching young people to make better choices. Teach boys to take responsibility for their actions. Teach girls to value themselves enough, so much they don't have to settle for men who don't stick around. And for the love of all things holy, please bring back discipline. And before anyone starts screaming, "But Summer, you didn't talk about the deadbeat dads that keep dipping," relax, I'll get to them. But first, I want to break down why single motherhood is destroying South Africa from the inside out, like how King Herod was eaten by a pile of worms when he tried to kill our Lord Jesus Christ. Ask yourself this: why do young men in South Africa join gangs? Why do they drop out of school? Why do they see crime as a career option? It's not a mystery. They have no fathers. They have no role models. They have no discipline. And the streets don't raise boys to be men. They raise boys to be killers, thieves, and statistics. A boy without a father grows up seeing his mother struggle. That's not rocket science. She can do her best, but she can only do so much to teach him how to be a man. So where does he learn? From the streets, the gangsters, from TikTok clowns who think being a real man means flexing money, disrespecting women, and having no emotion. By the time he's a teenager, he's already lost. He's got no ambition. He has no ambition. He's either in a gang, in prison, or worse, in the ground. And yet, society keeps pushing this narrative that mothers can be both parents. No, they can't. You can't replace a father. You can try. You can work 3 jobs. You can give him love. But you cannot teach a boy how to become a man if you've never been one. Now, let's talk about the girls, because it's not just little boys suffering. Alright, a girl raised without a father has no idea what a real man looks like. She doesn't know what a healthy relationship is, even though the single mom can do her best to make sure she does. So what happens? She craves male validation because she never got it at home. She jumps into relationships with the first guy who shows interest. She mistakes toxicity for love because that's all she's ever known. And before you know it, she is also pregnant at 16. Also repeating the same cycle as her mother. Boom! Another fatherless child, another lost generation, and society claps for it. You're so strong, you must keep going. No, they shouldn't keep going. We should be fixing the problem, not celebrating it. Let's be honest. Modern society is brainwashing women into believing that they don't need a man, that raising a child alone is somehow empowering. But if single motherhood was so great, then tell me this. Why are fatherless homes linked to higher crime rates, drug abuse, and worse education outcomes? Look around you. Boys join gangs because there's no father to discipline them. Girls get pregnant young because there's no father to guide them. Families stay poor because there's no father to provide for them. Yet, somehow society hates the idea of men being heads of the household. They'll call it toxic masculinity. But what's really toxic is pretending that broken homes are normal. A mother can nurture a child, but it's the father who teaches them discipline, respect, and ambition. Without that balance, you don't get well-adjusted kids. All you'll have is statistics. Let's be brutally honest here. Boys raised by single mothers tend to go in one of two directions. One, simps. Soft, emotional, and no backbone. They become the kind of men who let women walk all over them because they grew up seeing their mother struggle and now feel guilty for being men. Two, monsters. Aggressive, reckless, and violent. No father to control their anger. No role model to channel their energy. These are the guys who end up in jail before they turn 18. Neither of these men are good for society. Women don't want simps, and society can't function with criminals. So we have a generation of men who either can't lead or refuse to be controlled. All because we've normalized broken homes. Here's the real kicker. This isn't just a mistake. South Africa didn't wake up one day and decide she was going to be one of the most fatherless nations in the world. It was all calculated, all by design. How do I know, you ask? Well, tell me if I'm telling lies. The government just loves single mothers. Why? Because they're dependent. More government grants, more reliance on social services, more communism and enslavement mistaken for equality, and most importantly, more votes, which means more lies. Think about it. Child support incentives make it easier to be a single mother than to build a family. Fathers get pushed out because the government replaces them with money. Broken families keep poor people poor and easier to control. If the government actually cared about fixing this, they would be pushing for strong families, not celebrating single motherhood and distributing condoms to children. Now, before anyone starts screaming, what about fathers who leave? Yes, they're part of the problem too. Alright? I'm not going to sit here and glorify men for not being men and running away from their life's responsibility. I'm the type of guy to look at you dead in the eye and say, because of you, your child grew up without a father. But here's the reality. A lot of men don't even get the choice. You want to know why? Some want to be fathers, but are pushed away. And you'll be shocked at how many cases these occur. Some pay child support, but aren't even allowed to see their kids. Some were never taught responsibility because guess what? They were raised by single mothers as well. The cycle just keeps repeating and nobody wants to fix it. This truck is making so much noise I feel like going outside and punching that driver straight in the face and giving him a 4-knuckle tattoo. So if we really care about fixing South Africa, we need to stop pretending that single motherhood is normal. It's not. It's a crisis. Alright? Number one, stop glorifying it. It's not empowering. Single motherhood is a struggle, and it should be a last resort, not a lifestyle. 2, encourage father involvement. Fathers aren't optional, they are necessary. And I hope you're taking notes because I'm genuinely giving you golden advice here. 3, promote real families. Strong nations are built on strong homes because at the end of the day, a child needs both parents. And the more we ignore that, the worse things will get for us as a nation. So South Africa doesn't need more prisons, more grants, or more excuses. Maybe it doesn't even need the death penalty. It needs fathers back in homes. Period.